Houston tonight certainly made their case. A game they were trailing by 4 points at the half. They pull away a huge night from Jarace Walker tonight. You've still got Alabama lurking. They got a big, comfortable win against LSU this weekend. So let's start just by asking the simple question. Is Purdue still the number one team in your eyes, Rob?
Yes, absolutely. Now, if you did not rank Purdue number one last week, I have no problem with you not ranking them again. But if you had them ranked number one, I don't see any convincing argument for you to be able to drop them at this point. When they go on the road and they lose a game where they opened as an underdog, they weren't supposed to win that game, according to that River Sportsbook. So I have no doubt that I have no concerns about them. To be honest, like, this might be a hot take. I said this last night on After Dark. I was more impressed with them coming out of that second half than I was heading into that game. And I already really like Purdue. They got punched in the mouth. Everybody's going to get punched in the mouth at some point during conference season. You go on the road, you go into a place where you have 17,000 incredibly drunk Indiana fans screaming at you. Yeah, you know what? It might be a little bit intimidating for freshmen walking into that environment the first time. I think we saw with the little interaction between Trace Jackson Davis and Mason Gillis that those guys were like ready for. Indiana was ready for it. They got up for it and they punched them right in the mouth. Who's your daddy? That's what they said. And then in the second half, Purdue just ran their stuff and they did what they do. They ran their stuff. They got the ball to Zach Edey. They didn't try to get it all back on one possession. They didn't start firing up threes. They ran their stuff. They ran their offense. They played Purdue basketball and they cut it to one and they had the ball with a chance to take the lead. I don't know if you could ask for any more out of them in that situation. I am so in on Purdue. I'm more in on Purdue now than I was before the game, and that's after a loss to Indiana.
I can't argue with you. I was impressed when I said that. They were down 15 at the half and cut it down to a one-possession game. Indiana only scored 29 points in the second half. I mean, say that, but you gave up 50 the first half. But either way, I think it said something about them. They showed some championship mettle, man. And we're talking about Purdue on the defensive end. We didn't always – that's not something that we talked a lot about here in recent years, man. And I was impressed with them. I think so. Their second loss of the year. I don't – if you drop them – I mean, they can't drop any lower than, 2, 3 at the most. For the sake of it, I do believe if you lose, you need to drop. But I'm okay with if we start up tomorrow and Purdue's number one team.
Yeah, so I think the two teams that would be warranting of discussion to knock them a peg down would be Houston and Alabama. Both of them also 2 losses on the season right now. Houston, I mean, again, a comeback win tonight where they end up creating a lot of separation. But to me, I mean, they've had one bad loss on the season, then they have a loss head-to-head to Alabama. Alabama, really the only team in this group of 3 that we're talking about that's really gotten their doors blown off in a loss. That loss to Oklahoma is a different type of loss than anything we've seen from Purdue. You can't really knock Purdue for going to Assembly Hall in a game they were underdogs in and losing by 1 point at home to Rutgers. While not a good loss, Rutgers is a pretty good team, top 20 team according to the metrics right now. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the way these polls work, like, we want to see a little movement. Like, we want to reward a team that went 2-0 in the week. So it wouldn't surprise me if Houston ends up leapfrogging them, but it doesn't essentially really matter at this point, right? Like, we feel that that's the group at the top right now? Is there anybody else that you would lump in that group of 3, Rob?
No, it's Purdue, it's Houston, it's Alabama for me. Yeah. I don't think that they can get into the top 3, but I do think that Arizona at this point in my mind is one of the top 3 teams in college basketball. If you're asking me to pick who I think can win a national title, I think Purdue, Alabama, Arizona, and Houston to me are the 4. Those are the 4 that I would go with. And I say that about Arizona. I was ready to jump off the bandwagon 2 weeks ago, but Arizona's figured out a way to get stops. They figured out a way to guard. They figured out a way to be able to keep Azuolas Tubelis and Umar Ballo on the floor together at the same time without having it be a liability defensively. And look, we talk about Trace Jackson Davis as like playing at a National Player of the Year level. We talk about Zach Edey as good as he is. Azuolas Tubelis has to be in that conversation too. And I don't think that we talk enough about him. And yes, part of that is because most of their games tip off at like 11 p.m. on a Thursday night, which is like way too late for me to stay up for the end and sit there and be tweeting about it. A lot of them are blowouts. there's like 3 interesting games that get played in league play in the Pac-12. It's like when UCLA plays Arizona, and then maybe stay up to watch like the Arizona State game. Beyond that, I got 2 kids, man. I got to be up at 7:00 in the morning to get them ready for school. Right? It's hard on a Thursday to stay all the way up until 1 a.m. to sit there and watch all of these Pac-12 games. So I get it. But Azuolas Tubelis, this is me officially shouting you out. Tommy Lloyd today came out and I think it was yesterday, came out and said that Azuolas Tubelis is not getting enough attention for first team All-America. We got you, Azuolas. I got your back. All right. He's right there.
I told Goodman yesterday, if I had to rank my orders of player of the year, Zach Edey's 1, Jalen Wilson's 2, and Tubelis is 3.
3?
So I had him 3. I had him 3rd. So I don't know how much higher you want to put him. I don't know if you want to put him over Jalen Wilson, if you want to make the argument, but I think 3. I don't know how much higher you want me to pull him now. You know, maybe we got to yell at Billis and some other guys to give him that. But I mean, hell, if he's 3rd in my player of the year, I think that makes him. He's pretty solid, established at 20-10. He's on my first team All-American team right now. So I think
I would have him below Trace Jackson Davis in that pecking order. And the reason I say that is I think, one, a lot of the counting stats are a result of the pace that Arizona plays at, right? He's going to just naturally get more points and more rebounds because they are the fastest team in college basketball. And 2, the system that Tommy Lloyd runs very much emphasizes the skill set that Azuolas Tubelis has. So, like, he's having a great year and he's putting up great numbers and he's a very, very, very good player and he should be an All-American. I just think, like, in a vacuum, if you're going to tell me you got to pick one of these 2 guys, Trace Jackson Davis or Azuolas Tubelis, I'm taking Trace every single time, and that's the tiebreaker for me.
I'm not saying he's not a better player, and I'm not going to hold that against him, but I think he's also has a difficult job because they're playing 4 out of 5 times they're playing against a team that's playing small ball.
True.
And he is forcing him to guard and do things that, for a guy that didn't finish well in the tournament last year, didn't have a hell of a tournament, he didn't play well at all, just being quite frank, in the tournament a year ago. And for him to come back and respond and have this type of year, he's deserving of it. And again, it's what we talk about a lot of times. They scoring at that pace, but we worried about this group defensively because we were worried about that big lineup. They're answering the bell with that. We'll see what happens when they get outside the Pac-12. But I'm all in on them. I don't, like I said before, I still have them firmly at 3rd.